James Williams, great to have you on the podcast. I suppose let's start with just discussing how you actually got into being a full-time 400-meter runner, having, I believe, just initially done it without huge expectations at all when you first started running the full lap.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Alex. So it probably started a good few years ago now. I tried a 300-meter race in Belgium, and I ran like pretty well, and thought, oh, maybe that last 100 meters might not be too bad. Obviously, famous last words. It gets way harder every meter after 300, I think. But yeah, after I did that, I think back in like 2017 or so, I wanted to do a 400, and I started off indoors in 2020, and ran all right, obviously, and built up through that season. I ended up winning the British champs. Then obviously with COVID, I didn't really get a great chance to run outdoors. I had a couple of injuries, and I decided to just stick to the 100 and 200 that year. But then obviously, again, last indoor season, picked up the 400 again indoors, and then carried on outdoors, and yeah, obviously went from there. So yeah, basically at 300 and wanted to go a little bit further for some reason.
Yeah, because I think you'd done a few local races like county championships and stuff over 400 meters. So it wasn't as though you were completely new to it. But a lot of sprinters will say, oh, 200 meters is enough. Why do I want to go any further? But yeah, we were all trying to work out whether it's the same James Williams. Realised the club was the same. It's got to be surely. But what did your coach and training partners make of this lease of life over 400?
So I'm self-coached actually. I still have my club coach down on my Para 10 profile because he did a lot for me when I was younger. So I always keep him on there as like sort of a little homage to him. But yeah, I'm self-coached now. Have been for about 5 years, I think now. I sort of, collaborated with a few different groups, about 5 years ago, and then eventually just sort of cut away and went on my own with, some training partners. We sort of helped each other. And now at Liverpool, I have a little group with quite a few good up-and-coming athletes. So it's quite nice. I've gone from sort of the younger athlete looking up to people to now the older one who people are supposedly looking up to, which is quite nice. So it's gone full circle. So yeah, but no, I've always had encouragement to try the longer distance, and I always thought I'd do all right in it. But yeah, I think I've surpassed any expectations I ever had easily. Yeah.
Does being self-coached encourage you to maybe say, this is the direction I want to go in and no one's going to tell me otherwise?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So obviously it goes hand in hand with teaching really, because, the demands of that job sort of, make me like I need to sort of adjust training at certain times, and when parents' evening is on and stuff like that, I need to change my entire week around for that, so I can fit all the sessions in. So it's quite nice. I sort of get to rely on myself, and sometimes I get to sort of think, actually, I want a little bit of this week in training, and obviously I get to decide when I'm racing and when what races I'm going to do and all that kind of thing. So it is quite nice. So but sometimes I do miss like the hard sort of like a coach to crack the whip really. Sometimes when motivation dwindles, sometimes I do need that, but I have a training group, so it works all right.
Yes, well, in many ways teachers give pupils motivation, so they're good at passing that on. So yeah, just tell me a little bit more about combining maths teaching with athletics. I mean, you've christened yourself as a mathlete on your Twitter bio, but tell me what it's like, because I know there are a few teachers on the British athletics scene, shall we say, like Jamie Webb and Jesse Knight, but tell me how it works for you. And what you enjoy.
Yeah, I have to give that mathlete nickname. I have to give Ben Ellis some credit for that, who was my guru at uni and onwards from there. And he also coined my Twitter handle, JDub, as well. So I just want to give a shout out to him as well, because he made me into the sort of the trainer I am today, at least, and the athlete, I think. So want to give him a shout out. But yeah, combining teaching with athletics is hard, obviously, because, like I say, both things are very demanding. Teaching as a job, obviously, is so emotionally demanding, and demanding time-wise as well. And athletics, the same, in both senses. But in the same vein, both of them are very sort of structured and regimented. So I know I'm going to be in school from, say, 8 o'clock until 4 o'clock, for example. And then I know that means I get a good few hours in the evening to do my training, and, you know, forget about the worries of school. And when I'm in school, I get to forget about the worries of athletics. So they both work together well. But as I mentioned before, you know, sometimes things come up like parents' evening or marking or planning or, you know, things like that. So I do need to be flexible with my training. And I've definitely learned to be more flexible as I've grown older. And I used to sort of, well, not beat myself up as such, but if I missed a session, I'd maybe be a little bit harsh on myself, or if I didn't do a session quite as well as I wanted to, or didn't fit everything in, I'd worry a bit more than I do now. And now I'm a lot more like, I know I'm putting good work in whenever I train in the gym or on the track, so I don't worry as much and just sort of enjoy it more now.
It's interesting you say that you put teaching to the back of your mind when you're focusing on athletics. I know it's sometimes said that when running, you can actually get a better thinking space than that you're just sitting at your desk. So it might be there's sometimes, you know, kind of like gearing up to train, you can think about a lesson plan in a different way to which you would do just trying to grind it out at your desk.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, I say I put it to the back of my mind, but sometimes when I'm training, I do catch myself thinking, oh, I need to catch up with so-and-so about their homework tomorrow. And, you know, you do think about things like that that just pop into your head, and you're like, you know, you've got a 3-minute recovery before another 300, but you're thinking about, you know, giving someone a detention for homework or something. It's quite funny at times.
Yeah. So we touched on before you winning the British title. I remember you said at the time, obviously this was, coming up to 2 years ago now. It was one of the last events, I suppose, before COVID really hit us. And it was all so, we were so innocent back then in not knowing about what was quite about to hit us. But you said at the time that just making the final of the British Champs was huge for you. And to win your first medal as well at the Senior British Champs is great. So I suppose your focus has changed. You've set your sights on new things, and some of those are making the major championship teams, which has been brilliant. So what's that been like to kind of have that different mentality, I suppose, now that you've got those team opportunities in your sights?
Yeah, so yeah, that's definitely true. Way back when, that was a massive achievement for me to get to the final, and then obviously win it was amazing. I always wanted one of those medals ever since I first saw them. I think back in like 2013, the first time I saw one of those ones, and they were just so cool. So to get one was amazing. It was just sad that World Champs got cancelled. I mean, I obviously didn't get the qualifying time or anything, but there was, you know, it was still a shame. But yeah, to go from that to actually making a team last February or March, and then, you know, winning a medal with the relay lads was amazing. And to be around so many great athletes in that team was so cool for me, you know, because I'm an athletics fan as well. So to be around, like, you know, Andy Pozzi, Jodie Williams and Christian Malcolm and people like that was amazing. And, you know, everyone was just so welcoming. You wouldn't have known that it was, say, my first time in a team or other people's first time. Just everyone sort of treated you like you should be there, because I think, as Christian said in one of the team meetings, you're not here by chance. You know, everybody who's here deserves to be here, and you know, we all took that mentality on, and from there, yeah, I definitely, I don't know, it sort of, it sounds like a bit romantic, but I do feel like a bit like I'm a GB athlete. I do feel like that now, and I've taken that on board into training, and it's sort of justified any work that I've done in the past. And I've thought, actually, all this stuff must be good then, or any times that I'm putting in on the track must be good times. And they've taken, you know, it's taken that worry away from me, because if I've made this GB team, I must be a good athlete, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, it does. And obviously, this championship that we talk about in Torun in Poland, it was, I suppose, amid COVID restrictions in some sense, that you were taking tests and stuff like that. Was that quite easy to adjust to? Obviously, it's probably going to be a normal, if you like, for some time. Was that easy to put out your mind and try and get on with that?
Yeah, it was handled really well by the organisers there and us. Before we went, we were sent packs of PCR tests to do and then send off ourselves, which was pretty easy. Apart from the actual, you know, administration of the test, which is horrible. You still can't get used to that. But then, yeah, when we arrived, I think we got a test when we were there on the first day. And then maybe, you know, a couple of days later, and then one before we went home. But that was pretty easy. I was a little bit worried about that, actually, and how it would affect us, but it didn't affect anyone at all. We only had positive cases when we arrived back home, which meant we had to isolate when we were home. So luckily, it didn't affect the competition at all for us. But no, it was pretty easy to get used to. People were generally, you know, being sensible. So we wouldn't really mix in large groups and stuff like that. And, you know, we couldn't go into local shops and stuff, but we could still go on walks and stuff. And Tyrone was a really nice city. So it was nice to walk around and things like that. Yeah.
Now, it's interesting because obviously in indoors championships, like you won the British one, I don't know whether that was somewhat coincidental, the time of year that you started to excel at the 400 meters, or, and I say this because some single lap runners don't run indoors. They prefer not to, the tight bends and stuff like that, whether you prefer it or whether you have a slight specialism for it or not. Maybe it's coincidental.
Yeah. I always, you know, I liked indoor running when I was younger, you know, doing the 60s and the 2s, because it was warm mainly. But I think with the 4, what helps me massively, like being new to the event, is the fact that it's broken up so well. So, you know, you've got the first 150 or so in lanes, and then you break, and then you're already onto the second lap, and you're over halfway through before you even think. And at that point, I just think of it as like, you know, a couple of straights and a bend where I can push, hold, and push kind of thing. So it's just broken up really nicely in my mind. And for whatever reason, I just got used to it really quickly. And yeah, I mean, I quite like the sort of the specialist sort of moniker that I seem to have. It's quite nice. I feel like, you know, it comes with a little bit of, yeah, like gravitas as such. So I feel like, yeah, going into indoor races, I feel really confident, and I want to take that outdoors as well, eventually, that sort of confidence. Because, yeah, it just seems like a completely different animal outdoors, in the way that it's broken up and that the pacing just changes. I find the tactics of indoor running really interesting, and I find it quite nice that you can affect other people's races really significantly. If you get in front, you know, you hold all the cards really. So it's quite nice.
Yeah, and also fewer people in the race as well. So
yeah, that's true.
Sometimes more chance. talking about taking confidence, we'll talk about next year then, what's coming up, 2022. So many selection opportunities, including a home Commonwealth Games as well. So any particular ambitions in mind, or I suppose maybe just to capitalise on what you've done so far?
Yeah, so obviously indoors, there's the World Indoor Champs, which I'd love to qualify for. And then, yeah, outdoors, there's the 3 major championships. So I don't really have any specific goal with regards to them, but I would just love to be involved in any team. You know, I think it's obvious that I haven't made many teams in the past. I've made a few England teams, you know, going abroad to Vienna, Reykjavik, the Welsh international, things like that. And obviously last year were my first 2 GB bests. So making any team is always massive, and it always feels pretty cool to just get a new kit. So any team would be great for me. But obviously with the Commonwealth Games being in Birmingham, that would be an amazing atmosphere to be part of, and it's a huge event, isn't it? The Commonwealth Games. I remember growing up watching the Manchester one, and yeah, I just remember thinking I'd love to be part of that someday. So it's nice to even be, you know, within the chat of it. But yeah, I think the Commonwealths would hold a special place.
Yeah, and nice to have a state-of-the-art facility being built that, you know,
Yeah,
be able to make future use of as well. To have another.
yeah, I hope so. I hope I've still got a few years of running left in me, so I hope I do get to run at that new Birmingham track a few times, which was interesting actually, because obviously because of that, the British Champs were held in Manchester for a few years, weren't they? And I was really looking forward to that, and it's just a shame that COVID ruined the spectator aspect of that, I think, because with Manchester only holding maybe about 6,000 people, I thought that we could fill that up pretty easily and it'd have an amazing atmosphere. But yeah, but it'll be nice to go back to Birmingham because yeah, I like that place.
Yeah, it's a decent stadium in Manchester, and you're quite right. There's been some good events there, but you'd love to see it full. The thing that we often talk about though is the high wind that you get there, and sometimes the puddles of rain. I think there was a England Senior Championships that you competed at, and I was kind of on the roof on the gantry there, and I think it was +7 meters per second wind, so you were nearly blown off the roof at that point.
Yeah. That's Manchester for you then.
There we go. So yeah, I don't know if Birmingham has any particular weather specialism, but it's probably in the middle of all of those. I want to ask you then lastly about the kind of battle to get into the GB team. We've seen that, for example, Martin Rooney has hung up his spikes this year, or at one point he said, well, I'm hanging up from this style of race and this kind of caliber, but you might see me about in club races. But he's calling an end to his career at this point. And you've got so many people who would love to try and cement themselves in the team. You've got some young talents like Ed Folds, who came up last year, people who have made big improvements, and also good over 200 meters like Alex Haydock-Wilson, Joe Breyer, and people who have been around for a few years in GB teams like Lee Thompson, Cameron Chalmers as well. I mean, I could name so many names. I mean, it must be really interesting from the point of view of, you'd have to say there aren't that many, let's say, obvious reasons why, you know, anyone could predict who will be in a GB relay team. There is a wide open caliber of names that could, let's say, take the season by the scruff of the neck and end up being inside a squad. That must be really interesting from the point of view of, you know, there's a large group of you as well, and perhaps some camaraderie between you also.
Yeah, definitely. All those names you mentioned, like you say, are incredible athletes, and I think, like you said, they're taking a season by the scruff of the neck. I think someone like Alex Haydock-Wilson did that last year. After his sort of disappointment at the trials, he made huge improvements, and it was sadly a little bit too late for him, but hopefully he can keep that going into 2022. And then, like you say, Ed Folds and Charlie Carvel, the 2 young lads, it's great to see them 2 running really well, making the Euros final last year, and obviously Ed won the whole thing, so that was great to see. So I think obviously the men's 4x4 team maybe got a little bit of stick last year at the Olympics, but I think it's in good hands going forward. I think a lot of people really kicked it on. A lot of people are a lot younger than you realise. I always forget, and it's a testament to them, how young, say, like Joe Breyer is, or Alex Haydock-Wilson, and even like, say, Kevin Metzger. They're such young lads, and they're coming through really well. And then, like you say, you've got your Lees, your Camerons, even Owen Smith, Nick Baker, people like that, you know, who are really good athletes. And then you've got myself at the sort of older end, who's trying to still knock on the door, and you know, and I always think I can put a decent leg in on a relay. And yeah, I think we're in really good hands. And you know, it's nice thinking that even if certain people don't run well, we're still going to have a good bunch of lads who will run well and eventually will kick it on. And you know, I know we're not currently blessed with the likes of our Roger Blacks or Ewan Thomases, but I think, you know, given a little bit of nurture, some of those lads can definitely kick on into the low 45s, and then why not below? Maybe it's a bit of a mental block at the moment. Just needs one person, I think, to do it, and everyone will follow suit. Like what happened with the whole running sub 46 last year. I think one person did it. I can't remember who was first, and then a lot of people just followed suit straight after.
I think you've done yourself a bit of a disservice by saying you're one of the older ones. I've always thought that since they extended the rail card to being 26 to 30, which is also my age, that still counts as a young person. Besides, you've got the maths brain as well. So
yeah,
you know, whatever the numbers are, you know, if you can do the numbers inside your head, then you're probably at a bit of an advantage, you know. But yeah, you never know. So, well, it's been brilliant to chat to you. Hopefully a great year next year. For now, you've got the Christmas holidays, haven't you, from teaching?
Yeah. We broke up last Thursday, so about 4 days ago, I think. So I've just been trying to recover since then. It's been a hard term with COVID. But yeah, we have a nice long break, and I think we go back on the Tuesday, which is nice. So we have an extra Monday off, which is, you know, always a bonus. But yeah, just looking forward to relaxing now with the family, and yeah, seeing what Christmas has to bring.
Should be a good one. Yeah, brilliant. Well, hope you enjoy yourself over Christmas, and thanks very much for chatting.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Thanks for having me.